Hello everyone, my name is Yash. I'm someone who is interested in learning Korean just because I thought that learning another language would be cool. I was trying to build consistency. Every video I say that I will try to be more consistent. This is just a bad time period for me. Something or the other another comes up, and you can already I think tell by my voice I wasn't exactly I'm still not like perfectly healthy right now, but you can't do much about something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like part of the problem really is that when I have these 2 3 days gaps, I will lose confidence and like, do I even remember what I learned the last time I studied? So that's unfortunate. But I think you know but I think like I've done this enough times to know that for the most part we'll be okay. So let's get started. Today we will be doing we will be learning about the Korean sentence structure. So let's get started. uh, Honorific language. Oh.
Hi there, and welcome to the lecture on honorific language in Korean. Now, honorific language is a really important part of the Korean language, and it is perhaps a reflection of the hierarchical nature of the Korean society. Now, in Korea, a person can be regarded as having seniority based on a number of factors, such as age, their position within an organization, and also within the family. And when we speak to people with seniority, we have to use respectful language. And this respectful language is called 존댓말, and the casual language you use with friends is called 반말. Because using the casual language you use with friends is called 반말. Because using the wrong language can be deemed impolite and can cause serious offense, Koreans learn very early on what language they should use to show respect. Also, because honorific language is such a broad topic, it would be impossible to cover everything in this single lesson. So the aim of this lesson is to raise awareness of what honorific language is and to cover some of the most important aspects of honorific language. Let's first look at the most important aspects of honorific language in Korean, the verb endings. The most important and the most common way of showing respect in Korean is by conjugating the verbs. Let's first consider the verb 먹다, which means to eat. This is the infinitive form, the base form of the verb. It's made up of the verb stem 먹 and 다. And we can change a verb into either 반말 or 존댓말 by adding elements to the verb stem. For example, the casual form of 먹다 is 먹어, and this is 반말. Now, the casual term is generally used with close friends and family. Now, this aspect of closeness is also an important factor, as if you're not familiar with someone, it's always important to use respectful language, which is 존댓말. Now, when it comes to verbs, there are two forms of 존댓말, and the first is the polite form, and the polite form of 먹다 is 먹어요, and the second is the formal form, and for 먹다, it's 먹습니다. We use the formal form when we're in very formal settings, such as in job interviews and also often in business settings. So it's not commonly used in everyday speech. And this means that the most commonly used form of verb endings in everyday situation is the polite verb ending. Now, it's important to note that all verbs change into casual, polite, and formal forms. So whenever you learn verbs, you should always think about how they conjugate into different forms. And the way verbs change into casual, polite, and formal forms is something we will cover in one of our later courses. Now, there are also other ways we can change verbs to be even more respectful. But the three ways that I mentioned are the main ways we can change verbs to be respectful or casual. Let's look at one of the important aspects of honorific language. Now, it's easy to learn conjugation patterns and change verbs into casual, polite, and formal forms. But some verbs have an entirely different formal version. For example, the verb to sleep in Korean is 자다. But the honorific form of 자다 is 주무시다. So when we need to be respectful and say goodnight to people with seniority, we have to use the honorific form of the verb. Another example is the verb 주다, which means to give, but its formal form is 드리다. Now, like these examples, there are also other verbs that have an entirely different formal form. And when we learn Korean, it's important to learn not only the standard form of the verb, but also the honorific form. Also, nouns can have honorific forms too. For example, name in Korean is 이름, and its honorific form is 성함. And another example is the noun 생일, which means birthday, and its honorific form is 생신. So as we learn vocabulary in Korean, we have to learn both the standard and the honorific form so that we're able to use Korean in the right way. As mentioned at the start, the aim of this lesson was more about raising awareness of the Korean honorific language, also known as 존.
I get the idea behind it. That's not really that complicated.
So you're finished with learning the elements of Hangul, and now we're going to move on and learn about the Korean sentences. So over the next few lessons, we're going to learn about the Korean sentence. So first, we'll look at the Korean sentence and learn about the different elements that make up the Korean sentence. Then we'll look at how the subjects are used in Korean sentences, and then we'll learn about the Korean be verb, ida, so that we can form basic sentences using that verb. First, in this video, we're going to learn about the Korean sentence structure. So let's dive right in. We're first going to look at two important aspects of Korean sentences, and they are word order, and the other is the use of particles. Now, the basic structure of a Korean sentence is not too different from an English sentence. A Korean sentence can have a subject and a verb. Here's an example sentence. 나는 공부해. 나는 공부해. In this sentence, 나는 공부해. 나는 공부해. 나는 공부해. 나는 공부해.
Why is it a the?
In this sentence, we have the subject.
He has yet to explain why this becomes a the. He still has to explain that. 나는 공부해.
나, and this is the casual form of the pronoun I, and it's attached to the particle 는. The verb is 공부해, and its infinitive form is 공부하다, which means to study. Now, to clarify, an infinitive form of a verb is an unchanged form of a verb. English verbs also have infinitive forms. For example, the verb to study is an infinitive form, and we can change this into studies, depending on what the subject is, and studied and studying. So similarly, 공부해 is the present and the casual form of the infinitive form 공부하다. Therefore, this sentence means I study. And as you can see, the word order is the same for both English and Korean sentences. However, when we add an object to the sentence, we see a noticeable difference in the word order between the two sentences. So let's add Korean to both sentences to make them I study Korean. Here are the sentences. 나는 한국어를 공부해. I study Korean. 나는 한국어를 공부해. So the new element is 한국어를, and here 한국.
Okay.
한국어 means Korean and it's used with the object particle 를. So while the object in an English sentence comes after the verb, in a Korean sentence, the object comes before the verb. So this difference in word order is one of the key differences between English and Korean sentences. Let's look at a few other example sentences and focus on the word order and particularly the positioning of the object. 나는 운전해.
나는 운전 운전해 운전해 운전해
I drive. 나는 운전해. 나는 차를 운전해. I
나는
drive 운전해. 나는 차를 운전해.
차를
I
차 차를 운전해 운전해 운전해
drive a car. 나는 차를 운전해. 나는 요리해. I cook.
나는 요 요리해
운전해. 나는 요리해.
요리.
I cook. 나는 요리해. 나는 불고기를 요리해. I
Okay. I would like to be there when people were coming up with this, yeah, because like this language is certainly like different from my sensibilities, yeah, like my sensibilities is what you do. You say that first, and then you know the object is like at the end generally. But here the verb is like at the end. I've talked about this before. Like I can't wrap my head around like how did people like thought this was like the I obviously it works so that so in that way you can't really argue or whatever, but like up until now I haven't been exposed to a language like this, so I want to like up until now I thought it was very natural to say I cook bulgogi as he's saying, not because in its literal form this is I bulgogi cook, right? So like that to my sensitivities that doesn't sound intuitive, but it obviously is to Koreans. That's why they have the language. So that's interesting. I go bulgogi 고기를
cook 불고기. 나는 불고기를 요리해. So the first key aspect to Korean sentences is the word order. Now the second key aspect to Korean sentences is the use of particles. In this lesson, we've already seen two particles used, and they were 는 and 를. Now, Korean language has many different particles. Particles essentially have no meaning on their own, but they are used with certain words, and they can help to give structure to the sentence, and they can play an important role in giving meaning to the sentences. Of all the particles in Korean, two of the most common types of particles are those that indicate the subject of a sentence and those that indicate the object of the verb. The two types of particles that indicate what the subject is are called topic marker particles, which are 은 and 는, and subject marker particles, 이 and 가. The particles that indicate what an object is are called object marker particles, and they are 을 and 를. In this course, we're going to focus on learning about the topic and subject marker particles. And in our next course, Korean for Absolute Beginners 2, we will cover the object particles. And the reason for this separation is quite simple. In this course, we're going to focus on learning just one verb, the be verb 이다. And with the be verb 이다, we don't use object particles. And in our second course for Absolute Beginners, we're going to focus heavily on learning about Korean verbs. So it makes sense to focus on object particles together in the same course with the verbs. So once this lesson is over, we're going to spend quite a bit of time learning about the topic and subject particles. Another important feature of a Korean sentence is that the only permanent part of a Korean sentence is the verb. So this means that a Korean sentence can omit the subject and the object and still form a grammatically Korean sentence. In Korean, if the subject of the sentence is obvious to the people in the conversation, we can just drop the subject. So in this sentence, 나는 한국어를 공부해. If it's obvious that I'm talking about myself, then I'll drop 나는 and just say 한국어를 공부. Talking about myself, then I'll drop 나는 and just say 한국어를 공부해. Additionally, if someone's question focuses on the action rather than the object of the action, or who's doing the action, then we can just answer by using the verb. So if someone asks, what are you doing in Korean? I can simply respond and say 공부해. And this verb alone can form a sentence in Korean. However, what makes verbs really important in Korean is that how you conjugate verb endings will lead to different kinds of statements. For example, 공부하자 means let's study. 공부할까 means should we study? And 공부하세요 means please study. So as well as the verb being the only permanent parts of a Korean sentence, it's also important as well as the verb being the only permanent parts of a Korean sentence, that means 공부하자 means
you might as well just you 하자. Let's study.
means let's study. 공부할 means 공부하자 means let's study. 공부할까 means should we study. And 공부하세요 means please study. So as well as the verb being the only permanent parts of a Korean sentence, it's also important in changing the meaning of a sentence. And as we learned earlier, we can also conjugate verbs important in changing the meaning of a sentence. And as we learned earlier, we can also conjugate verbs to be respectful. Okay, so it's been a really long lesson. So to sum up, in this lesson, we've looked at 3 key aspects of Korean sentences: word order, the use of particles, and the importance of verbs in Korean. In the next lesson, we're going to look at how we use topic and subject particles. So I'll see you soon again in that lesson. Bye-bye.
This is already a little late. That is my fault. I'm just under the weather a bit. So we learned about Korean sentence structure, and for the most part, what we understood is that it's possible for a Korean sentence to be just a verb, and that's fascinating. Can we do that in Hindi? I suppose we can, because from what I'm getting, this is mostly context. Yeah, like in the context, it makes sense. It's correct within like the Korean understanding, so that makes sense. Next lesson we will do particles, so look forward to that. All the YouTube obligations: like, share, subscribe if you liked this video. It's nice. Like some of you, if you have any suggestions about what I should do, like if you see me making mistakes, if you see me struggling with something and you think you can help, let me know. And if you have any questions, leave the comments down. Leave the question down in the comments, and I will help as much as I can. So thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.